Danny Carter held his daughter's hands as they walked through the busy space station. Lily was on his left and was on his right. They were twins, both 10 years old, with brown hair and bright green eyes just like their mother. Their mother had passed away 2 years ago from a sickness that no doctor could cure. Since that day, Danny had promised himself that he would do anything to make his girls happy again. Today was a special day. Danny had saved money for 2 whole years to bring them to the Galactic Companion Center on Station Orion 7. This was a place where families could adopt alien creatures as companions and pets. Some of these creatures were small and cute. Others were big and gentle. All of them needed homes and families to love them. The year was 2347, and humans had been living among aliens for over 100 years. Danny worked as a cargo ship captain. He flew his old ship between Earth and the far colonies, carrying food and supplies to people who needed them. He was not a rich man. His clothes were simple and his boots were worn. But he had enough money for this trip, and that was all that mattered. The space station was huge. It spun slowly in space like a giant wheel. Thousands of beings from dozens of different worlds walked through its halls. Danny saw tall blue aliens with 4 eyes. He saw short furry creatures that rolled instead of walked. He saw beings made of light and beings made of stone. It was a strange and wonderful place. Lily pressed her face against every window they passed. She wanted to see everything, was quieter. She held her father's hand tightly and watched the aliens around them with curious eyes. Both girls had been sad for so long after their mother died. But today, Danny could see something else in their eyes. He could see hope. The companion center was located in the middle of the station. It was a large building with bright lights and colorful signs. A friendly alien named Myra greeted them at the entrance. She was a species with pale purple skin and large dark eyes. Her voice was soft and kind. "Welcome to the Galactic Companion Center," Myra said with a warm smile. "You must be the Carter family. We are so happy to have you here today." Danny nodded and shook her hand. "Thank you. My daughters have been looking forward to this for a long time." Myra knelt down to look at Lily and what kind of companion are you hoping to find today? Lily thought for a moment. "Something special," she said. Nodded, "Something that needs us." Myra smiled at their answer. Most children asked for something cute or fluffy, but these 2 girls had given a very different answer. She stood up and looked at Danny with a curious expression. "Your daughters are very thoughtful," she said. Danny felt a small burst of pride in his chest. They take after their mother. Myra led them into the main hall of the center. It was filled with large enclosures where different creatures lived. Each enclosure was designed to look like the creature's home world. Some had forests with purple trees. Others had deserts with golden sand. A few had oceans with water that glowed in the dark. The first creature Myra showed them was a glider. It was a small animal with wings that shimmered like rainbows. It flew around its enclosure in graceful circles. "This is a very popular choice for families," Myra explained. "Gliders are gentle and easy to care for. They love to sit on shoulders and sing soft songs." Lily and watched the glider for a moment. Then they looked at each other and shook their heads. "It's pretty," Lily said politely, "but it's not the one." Myra was surprised, but she kept smiling. She led them to the next enclosure where a pup was playing with a ball. The pup had 6 legs and golden fur that looked very soft. Its tongue hung out of its mouth as it ran in happy circles. "Pups are wonderful companions," Myra said. "They are loyal and playful and they love children." Knelt down to watch the pup. It ran up to the glass and wagged its tail at her. She smiled a little, but then she stood up and shook her head. "He's nice," said, "but he's not the one either." Danny was starting to feel confused. He had expected his daughters to pick something quickly. Most children fell in love with the first cute creature they saw, but Lily kept saying no to everything. Myra showed them more creatures. There were orbs that floated in the air and hummed beautiful melodies. There were small rock creatures that could change colors. There were fuzzy balls of fur that purred when you held them. Each time, the girls would watch for a moment and then shake their heads. As they walked deeper into the center, Danny noticed his daughters kept looking toward the back of the building. There was a long corridor there with a heavy metal door. Warning signs were posted all around it. Red lights flashed above the entrance. "What's back there?" Lily asked quietly. Myra's smile faded a little. "That is the restricted wing. We keep difficult cases there, creatures that are dangerous or have problems. They are not available for adoption." Danny felt relieved. He did not want his daughters anywhere near dangerous creatures. But tugged on his hand. "Can we just look, please, Daddy?" "I don't think that's a good idea," Danny said. Lily looked up at him with her green eyes. They were the same eyes her mother had. The same eyes that had convinced Danny to adopt 3 stray cats, 2 dogs, and a one-winged bird over the years. Eyes that saw something worth saving in every broken creature. "Please," Lily said softly, "just for a minute." Danny sighed. He could never say no to those eyes. He looked at Myra. Would it be possible just a quick look? Myra hesitated. She looked at the 2 small girls and saw something in their faces, something that made her think of her own children back home. Finally, she nodded slowly. "A very quick look," she said, "but you must stay behind the safety barriers at all times. The creatures in there are not like the others. Some of them have hurt people, some of them have killed. Do you understand?" Danny nodded seriously. "We understand." Myra led them toward the heavy metal door. As they got closer, Danny felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He did not know why, but he felt like something important was about to happen, something that would change their lives forever. The door opened with a loud hiss, and they stepped into the darkness beyond. The restricted wing was nothing like the bright and colorful main hall. The lights here were dim and the air felt cold. The walls were made of thick metal and the floor was hard beneath their feet. Danny kept his daughters close as they followed Myra down the long corridor. The enclosures here were different too. They were not designed to look like beautiful home worlds. They were simple cells with heavy bars and glowing energy shields. The creatures inside were not cute or friendly. Many of them growled and hissed as the family walked past. Danny felt his heart beating faster. He wanted to turn around and take his daughters back to the safe part of the center, but Lily and walked calmly beside him. They did not seem afraid at all. They looked at each creature with thoughtful eyes as if they were searching for something. The first cell held a creature that looked like a giant spider with too many legs. It slammed against the bars when it saw them. Myra quickly moved them along. "That one was found on a destroyed ship," she explained quietly. "It attacked the rescue team. We still don't know what species it is." The next cell held a snake-like alien with scales that sparked with electricity. It coiled in the corner and watched them with cold, yellow eyes. "This one shocked 3 handlers before we figured out how to contain it," Myra said. "It cannot control its own power." Lily looked at the electric snake with sad eyes. "It looks scared," she whispered. Danny put his hand on her shoulder. "Some creatures are just dangerous, sweetheart. It's not always about being scared." But even as he said the words, Danny was not sure he believed them. He had seen a lot of things in his years flying cargo ships through space. He had seen creatures that seemed dangerous turn out to be gentle. He had seen creatures that seemed gentle turn out to be deadly. You could never really know what was inside another being's heart. They passed more cells with more dangerous creatures. There was a beast covered in spikes that roared so loud the walls shook. There was a thing made of shadows that seemed to absorb the light around it. There was a creature with no body at all, just floating eyes that followed their every move. Through it all, Lily and kept walking. They looked at each creature carefully, but they did not stop. They did not say, "That one." Danny started to hope that maybe his daughters would not find what they were looking for here. Maybe they would go back to the main hall and pick a nice, safe companion instead. Then they reached the end of the corridor. The last cell was different from all the others. It was 3 times the size of the normal cells. The bars were thicker. The energy shield glowed brighter. And there were chains. Heavy chains made of a special metal that Danny recognized. It was quantum-locked alloy, the strongest material in the known galaxy. It was used to hold the most dangerous things in the universe. Inside the cell, a massive figure was chained to the wall. Danny stopped walking. His body went stiff with fear. He knew what this creature was. Everyone in the galaxy knew what it looked like. They were the monsters of bedtime stories. They were the demons that soldiers whispered about around campfires. During the Great Wars had killed thousands of beings without mercy. The creature stood almost 8 feet tall, even while hunched in chains. Its skin was covered in dark scales that looked like armor. It had 4 powerful arms, each one thick with muscle. Scars covered its body, old wounds from countless battles. A heavy metal muzzle was clamped over its mouth, keeping its deadly jaws shut. But it was the eyes that Danny could not look away from. They glowed like dying coals in a fire, orange and red mixed together. Those eyes had seen death. Those eyes had caused death. Those eyes were the last thing many beings had ever seen. Myra stopped beside them. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "This is our most dangerous resident. We captured it 3 months ago. Well, bounty hunters captured it. It killed 17 of them before they brought it down." Danny felt sick. 17 dead. This thing had killed 17 trained hunters, and it was still alive. "Why is it here?" he asked. "We're holding it until the home world sends a transport ship. They're not sure what to do with it either. Most live in controlled areas. This one was found wandering in unclaimed space." The creature had not moved since they arrived. It hung in its chains like a puppet with cut strings. Its ember eyes stared at the floor. Danny had expected rage or violence, but this creature just looked empty. Then Lily took a step forward. "Lily, no," Danny said quickly. He reached for her arm. But Lily slipped away from his grasp. She walked right up to the energy barrier and stood there, small and fragile, looking up at the monster in chains. This head slowly lifted. Those burning eyes moved from the floor to the tiny human girl standing before it. For a long moment, nothing happened. The creature just stared at Lily, and Lily stared back. Walked up to stand beside her sister. 2 small girls, no taller than the creature's knee, looking at something that had killed dozens of beings. Danny's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst. He wanted to grab his daughters and run, but his feet would not move. Something was happening here, something he did not understand. They made a sound. It was low and rumbling like thunder in the distance. The chains rattled as its massive body shifted. Myra took a step back in fear. But Danny saw something that made him pause. The creature's eyes had changed. The emptiness was gone. In its place was something else. Something that looked almost like surprise, almost like wonder. The monster was looking at his daughters like they were the strangest thing it had ever seen. And then Lily raised her small hand and pointed directly at the chained. "That one," she said. Her voice was soft but certain. "We want that one, Daddy." Nodded beside her. "He's lonely and he's scared, just like we were after Mommy died." Danny Carter stood in that cold, dark corridor, looking at his daughters, looking at the monster, and he could not find any words to say. His mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. His daughters had chosen His 10-year-old twins wanted to adopt the deadliest creature in the known galaxy. Danny was completely and utterly stunned. Myra spoke first. Her voice was sharp and filled with disbelief. "That is impossible," she said. "Absolutely impossible. This creature is a Class 7 threat. Do you understand what that means? It means it is one of the most dangerous beings in the entire galaxy. It has killed dozens of people. It cannot be adopted. It especially cannot be adopted by a human family with children. Danny finally found his voice. Girls, I think we should go back to the main hall. There are so many wonderful companions there. You can pick anyone you want. But Lily did not move. She kept her hand pressed against the energy barrier, as close to thee as she could get. He's the one, Daddy, she said quietly. I know he is. Nodded, we don't want any other one. We want him. Danny looked at his daughters, then looked at the massive creature in chains. Every part of his brain was screaming at him to say no. This was madness. This was dangerous. This could get them all killed. But there was something about the way that was looking at his daughters. Danny had expected to see hunger or rage in those ember eyes. Instead, he saw something that made him stop and think. The creature looked confused. It looked like it could not understand why two small humans were not running away in fear. Myra, Danny said slowly, why did this kill those bounty hunters? Myra blinked in surprise. What do you mean? You said it killed 17 bounty hunters, but you didn't say why. What happened? Why were bounty hunters after it in the first place? Myra frowned and pulled out her data pad. She scrolled through the information for a moment. Her frown deepened as she read. According to the report, she said slowly, there was protecting a group of refugees, children. Their transport ship had crashed in unclaimed space. The bounty hunters found them and were going to sell them to slavers. Danny felt something shift in his chest. Sell them to slavers. Myra nodded. Child slavery is illegal in Union space, but there are places beyond our borders where it still happens. These bounty hunters made their living catching and selling vulnerable beings. She paused and looked back at the data pad. The fought them, alone. It killed 17 of them and held off the rest until a Union patrol ship arrived. When the children were safe, it surrendered without a fight. The corridor was silent, except for the low hum of the energy shields. Danny stared at the creature with new eyes. This had not killed for pleasure or sport. It had killed to protect children. Children it did not know. Children from a species that was not its own. It had fought against impossible odds and won, and then it had given itself up when the fight was over. What happened to the children? Lily asked softly. Myra smiled a little. They were returned to their families safely. They are all doing well now. Turned to look up at her father. See, Daddy, he's not a monster. He saved those kids. He's a hero. Danny ran his hand through his hair. He did not know what to think anymore. His daughters were not wrong. What this had done was brave and good, but that did not change what it was. It was still a deadly warrior. It could still tear apart a human with its bare hands. Even if what you say is true, Danny said to Myra, can something like this even be adopted? Are there laws against it? Myra shook her head slowly. There are no laws specifically against adopting a. It has simply never been done before. No one has ever wanted to, and the station council would have to approve any adoption of a Class 7 creature. They would need to be convinced that it is safe. Is it safe? Danny asked. Myra did not answer. She looked at thee in its chains. The creature had not moved during their entire conversation. It just hung there, watching and listening. Its ember eyes kept moving back to Lily and studying them like they were puzzles it could not solve. I don't know, Myra admitted finally. I have worked here for 15 years. I have seen many dangerous creatures, but I have never seen anything like this. It has been perfectly calm since it arrived. It has not attacked anyone or tried to escape. It just sits in its chains and waits. She paused. Sometimes I think it is waiting to die. Lily made a small sound of pain at those words. She pressed both hands against the barrier now. He's not going to die, she said firmly. We won't let him. The moved for the first time. Its head tilted to the side, like a dog hearing a strange sound. Those ember eyes looked at Lily with something that might have been curiosity. Danny made a decision. He was not sure if it was the right one. He was not sure if he was putting his family in danger. but he thought about his wife and the way she had always seen the good in others. He thought about how she would have reacted to this creature's story. She would have wanted to help, Danny was sure of that. "Myra," he said quietly, "how do I apply for adoption? What do I need to do?" Myra's eyes went wide. "Mr. Carter, you cannot be serious. They are killing machines. They are weapons built for war." "This one saved children," Danny said. "This one fought against slavers. This one surrendered peacefully when the fight was over." He looked at the creature in chains. "I've seen humans do worse things for worse reasons. At least this one had a good reason for what it did." Myra opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. She looked at Danny. She looked at Lily and she looked at the... Then she sighed deeply. "You will need to speak to the station council," she said. "They will ask you many questions. They will want to know why you want to do this. And even if they approve, there will be conditions, tracking devices, regular checkups, evaluations." Danny nodded. "I understand." The process could take months, and the council might still say no. They probably will say no. "I understand that too." Myra shook her head in disbelief. "You are either the bravest human I have ever met, Mr. Carter, or the craziest." Danny smiled a little. "My wife used to say the same thing." He looked down at his daughters. Lily and were smiling for the first time in a long time. Real smiles, happy smiles, the kind of smiles he had not seen since their mother died. "Okay," Danny said softly, "let's do this. Let's bring him home." And in its cell, the chain made that low rumbling sound again. This time, Danny thought he understood what it meant. It was the sound of hope. The next 3 months were the hardest of Danny Carter's life. He had to appear before the station council 5 different times. The council was made up of 12 beings from 12 different species. They sat in a large curved room with high ceilings and cold stone walls. Every time Danny stood before them, he felt small and alone. The questions never stopped. "Why do you want to adopt her?" they asked. "My daughters chose him," Danny answered. "They see something in him that others do not see." "Your daughters are children. They do not understand danger." "My daughters lost their mother 2 years ago. They understand pain better than most adults, and they see that this creature is in pain too." The council members whispered among themselves. They looked at Danny like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. Maybe this whole thing was madness. But every time he thought about giving up, he remembered the look in his eyes when Lily had called him the one. He could not give up, not after that. The council brought in experts to speak against him. Military officers talked about the frontier wars and how many soldiers had killed. Scientists explained that were bred for violence and could not be tamed. Psychologists warned that the creature could turn on the family at any moment. Danny listened to all of it, then he asked to speak. "Everything you say may be true," he said. "Have killed many people. They were made for war. They are dangerous." He paused and looked at each council member in turn. "But this saved children. It protected the weak from the strong. It fought against slavers who wanted to hurt innocent beings. And when the fight was over, it surrendered peacefully." One of the council members, a tall alien with gray skin, leaned forward. "That does not change what it is, Mr. Carter." "No," Danny agreed. "But it shows what it can be. It shows that there is more inside it than violence. There is goodness too, and I believe that goodness deserves a chance." The council took a vote. 7 members voted against the adoption. 5 voted in favor. The request was. Danny walked out of the council chamber feeling crushed. He sat on a bench in the hallway and put his head in his hands. He had tried so hard. He had fought for 3 months, and it was all for nothing. Then he felt 2 small hands on his knees. Lily and were standing in front of him. They had been waiting outside the chamber the whole time. Their faces were serious but not sad. "We're not giving up, Daddy," Lily said. "We can try again," added. "We can make them understand." Danny looked at his daughters. They were so young but so strong. They had lost their mother and survived. They had found hope in the strangest place and refused to let it go. They were fighters, just like their mother had been. He took a deep breath and nodded. "You're right," he said. "We're not giving up." Over the next few weeks, Danny did something unexpected. He started visiting the everyday. Myra let him into the restricted wing, though she always looked nervous when she did. Danny would sit outside the cell and talk. He talked about his daughters. He talked about his wife. He talked about his life as a cargo ship captain and the strange things he had seen in space. The never responded. It just hung in its chains and watched him with those ember eyes. But something was happening. Danny could feel it. One day, he brought Lily and with him. They sat beside him and talked to the two. Lily told stories about her school and her friends, sang songs that their mother used to sing to them. The creature listened to everything with its head tilted to the side. Then something amazing happened. Was singing a soft lullaby when the moved. It shifted in its chains and leaned forward as far as it could. Its ember eyes were fixed on its face. And then, very softly, it made a sound. It was not a growl or a roar. It was a low humming noise, almost like it was trying to sing along. Danny felt tears in his eyes. This creature, this deadly warrior that had killed dozens of beings, was trying to hum a lullaby. He knew what he had to do. Danny went back to the council and asked to speak again. This time he brought something with him. It was a video he had recorded on his data pad. The video showed Lily and sitting outside the cell. It showed singing. And it showed the humming along, its ember eyes soft and gentle. The council watched in silence. "This creature is not just a weapon," Danny said. "It can learn. It can change. It can feel things that we thought only humans could feel. My daughters saw this from the very beginning. They saw what the rest of us were too scared to see." He looked at the council with determination in his eyes. "I am not asking you to trust I am asking you to trust my daughters. They have never been wrong about someone who needed help. Please, give them a chance to prove it." The council voted again. This time, the vote was 8 in favor and 4 against. The adoption was approved. Danny fell to his knees right there in the council chamber. Tears ran down his face. Lillian ran to him and wrapped their arms around his neck. They were all crying, but they were happy tears. It had taken 3 months of fighting, 3 months of doubt and fear and sleepless nights, but they had done it. Myra appeared beside them with a gentle smile. "The council has set conditions for the adoption. They must wear a tracking device at all times. You will have monthly evaluations to check on its behavior. If there is any sign of violence, the adoption will be canceled immediately." Danny nodded. "I understand. I accept all the conditions." "There is one more thing," Myra said. "That has a name. The record's listed as I thought you should know." Lily smiled and wiped her eyes. "I like that name." Nodded. "Me too. When can we bring home?" Myra checked her data pad. "The release is scheduled for tomorrow morning. There will be security present just in case, but the chains will come off and will be yours." Danny hugged his daughters tightly. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow they would become a family of 4. He hoped with all his heart that he was doing the right thing. The day the chains came off was a day that everyone on Station Orion 7 would remember. Danny stood in the restricted wing with Lily and beside him. Security officers lined the walls, at least 20 of them, all carrying weapons. Their faces were tense and nervous. Many of them had fought in wars and seen terrible things, but nothing had prepared them for this moment. They were about to release from its chains. Myra stood by the control panel, her fingers hovering over the buttons that would open the cell and remove the chains. She looked at Danny with worry in her large, dark eyes. "Are you sure about this, Mr. Carter?" she asked quietly. "Once I press this button, there is no going back." Danny looked at his daughters. Lily was holding his left hand, was holding his right. They were both smiling with complete faith and trust. "I'm sure," Danny said. Myra took a deep breath and pressed the button. The energy barrier flickered and disappeared. The heavy chains around his body made a loud clicking sound as the locks opened. One by one, the chains fell to the floor with a crash that echoed through the corridor. For a moment, nothing happened. Stood perfectly still. After 3 months in chains, it seemed like he did not know what to do with his freedom. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His ember eyes moved slowly around the room, looking at the security officers and their weapons. Danny felt his heart pounding in his chest. This was the moment of truth. This was when they would find out if he had made a terrible mistake. One of the security officers raised his weapon slightly. The movement was small, but saw it. His eyes fixed on the weapon with sudden intensity. His muscles tensed. For one horrible second, Danny was sure that violence was about to explode. Then Lily did something that stopped everyone's breath. She let go of Danny's hand and walked toward. "Lily, no." Danny tried to grab her, but she slipped away from him just like she had done 3 months ago. His daughter walked right up to the massive. She was so small compared to him. The top of her head barely reached his knee. Could have crushed her with one hand. He could have killed her before anyone could react. But he did not move. Lily looked up at the towering alien warrior. She smiled her mother's smile, warm and full of love. "Hi," she said softly. "We came to take you home. Is that okay?" The restricted wing was completely silent. Every being held their breath. The security officers' fingers tightened on their weapons. Looked down at the tiny human girl. His ember eyes burned brightly, but there was no anger in them. There was no violence. There was only something that looked very much like wonder. Slowly, carefully, the massive knelt down. His movements were gentle, so gentle that it seemed impossible for a creature his size. He knelt until his face was level with Lily's. Then he held out one of his 4 hands, palm up, like he was offering her a gift. Lily placed her small hand in his massive palm. Her fingers could not even wrap around one of his. "See," she said, turning to look at her father. "He's not scary, he's our friend." Ran forward to join her sister. She took another of his hands in both of hers. They looked at the second girl with the same wonder. 2 small humans holding onto him like he was something precious instead of something dangerous. Danny walked forward slowly. The security officers watched with wide eyes as he approached He stopped in front of and looked into those ember eyes. "Welcome to the family," Danny said quietly. Made that low, rumbling sound that Danny had heard before. It vibrated through the floor and up into Danny's bones. But this time, Danny understood exactly what it meant. It was gratitude. It was hope. It was the sound of something broken finding a reason to be whole again. Together, the 4 of them walked out of the restricted wing. Danny in front, Lily and on either side of, each holding one of his hands. Security officers stepped back to let them pass. Myra watched them go with tears running down her purple cheeks. When they reached the main hall of the station, people stopped and stared. Aliens of every species watched in shock as a human man and 2 small human girls walked calmly beside her. Some beings screamed and ran. Others stood frozen in fear. But paid no attention to any of them. His eyes never left Lily and he walked slowly and carefully, matching his huge steps to their small ones. They boarded Danny's cargo ship and flew home to Earth. In the years that followed became something that no one had ever expected. He became a father, not by blood but by choice. He walked Lily into school every day. Other children were scared at first, but they soon learned that the giant alien was the gentlest creature they had ever met. Learned to cook. His huge hands were surprisingly careful in the kitchen. He made the girls' favorite meals and packed their lunches with little notes that he learned to write in human letters. He sat through countless tea parties without complaint. He let the girls put ribbons on his arms and flowers in his scales. He listened to their problems and dried their tears. When they had nightmares, he would sit by their beds and hum that low, rumbling hum until they fell asleep. When bullies tried to bother Lily and they took one look at and decided to find somewhere else to be, but never hurt anyone, he never even raised his voice. His presence alone was enough. Word spread throughout the galaxy about the human family that had adopted a. Other species were confused and amazed. How could humans trust such a creature? How could children show no fear toward a being that had killed so many? But humans understood. Humans had always understood. They saw what others could not see. They looked past the scales and the scars and the reputation. They saw the soul underneath, a soul that needed love and found it in the most unexpected place. Danny Carter watched his daughters play within their backyard one evening. The sunset painted everything in shades of gold and orange. Lily was trying to teach how to play catch, was sitting on his shoulders, laughing as she tried to put a flower crown on his head. Danny smiled and thought about his wife. She would have loved this. She would have said that this was exactly what she had always believed in: the power of kindness, the strength of love, the hope that anyone could change if someone just believed in them. Humanity had spread across the stars and met 1,000 different species. They had fought wars and made peace. They had built empires and watched them fall. Through it all, they had carried one truth with them. The universe was full of monsters, but sometimes, if you looked close enough, you found that the monsters were just as lost and scared as everyone else. And sometimes, all it took to turn a monster into family was a little girl pointing at it and saying two simple words. That one. The galaxy never quite understood how humans did it, how they found hope in the darkest places and love in the hardest hearts. But that was the thing about humans that made them special. They didn't just survive the universe. They made it kinder,